Hi, I'm Christian Barman, I'm the car enthusiast, and this is my 2011 BMW 335i xDrive, and I've been doing a build series on this car on my YouTube channel, so if you're interested in those videos, check them out. I said I'd be doing interior next, but after living in in snowy weather for the last couple of weeks, I've noticed that a lot of dirt has built up on the paint behind the wheels, front and rear. So I want to try to prevent that from happening because I don't want the dirt sitting in the paint over a long period of time since I can't really wash it all that often. If I sound cold, it's because it's about 14 degrees Fahrenheit here. I'm very chilly. I didn't dress for the occasion. I'm going to make this quick, but today I'm going to be installing splash guards or mud flaps or mud guards, whatever you want to call them. In my case, they're ice guards and dirt guards. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to install them. Hopefully that's not too much of a hassle. I haven't tried it yet, but and I'm gonna test to see if they're actually worth installing, see what the difference is in terms of dirt building up behind the wheels. So let's get started. All right, so I'm at my apartment garage, and this is the only place that I really have to do this. Hopefully you can hear me. There's traffic all outside the garage, but this is my wife's Lexus GX 470 behind me, and I'm going to be introducing this to my channel, doing a build series alongside the build series on this car. But this one will be more like an overlanding, off-roading kind of build series, which is my other automotive passion. So stay tuned for that if you're interested. But I've already installed the two left side, front and rear splash guards, mud flaps, whatever you want to call them. These are the two right side ones. So let me show you how to do it, and we'll start with the front. So here are the tools you'll need for the job if you're not going to take the wheels off and lift the car up. I'm personally not going to. It is easier if you do so, but I don't have a jack, so I'm not going to do that. I can't. A couple of socket extensions. I'm using a 1/4 inch just because it's very small and maneuverable in tight spaces. So I have a couple of extensions. This is a flexible extension, and I'm a big fan of that. You'll need an 8mm. This is kind of a Phillips head socket that I made just by taking a 1/4 inch socket and then fitting a Phillips head drill bit into there. Just a standard ratcheting wrench, 1/4 inch size. Duct tape, and you'll see why I use that later on, but I just keep this roll in my car for emergencies. This little Allen key right down there doesn't have to be an Allen key, it just has to be something super narrow, thin, so that you can punch out a couple of plastic rivets, the centers of them. This pocket knife also doesn't have to be a pocket knife. It can be just something really sharp and pointy that you can poke a hole in some plastic with. Only need to use that twice. And then just a Phillips head screwdriver. So with all of these things, you should be able to accomplish this whole task. All right, so the first thing we need to do is take these two kind of plastic rivets, I don't even know what you call them, but there's little punches through the center. There's two little rods through the center. I'm going to take this little tiny 1.5mm Allen key and just push them through. We do not need to keep them. And then these can just be pried out with your fingernail. No resistance at all, pretty much. And the hardware that comes with this is actually, they'll give you a total of 8 screws. One goes to each of the back mud flaps, and you'll reuse one of the factory screws. And then 3 goes to each of the fronts. And then with the fronts, you'll need 2 of these silver brackets. And once you have these kind of rivet-looking things punched out, you'll just take these brackets, take the whole side. There's an actual clamp side that secures the screw. You'll take the whole side, and you'll slide it through right there to match up with those holes. But the next step will be to take this T30 drill bit. You don't even need a screwdriver in my case. It's fairly hand tight. And there's a little plastic screw underneath the bottom side that will actually secure the bottom of the front mud flap. So go ahead and remove that. So now you can go ahead and start installing the front one. It's fairly straightforward. To get it in place, just slide it where it sits most comfortably. And on the back side, there are actually these ridges that conform to the fender and then the side skirt. So just make that fit where it sits most happily. And then what I'm going to do first is secure the bottom so that it actually holds the whole thing up. Okay, so I got that hand tight with my T30. And now I'm going to fasten this screw along the bottom to make sure that that's aligned, because if I screw the top one in and then the second one is not aligned, then it's going to be a hassle to actually find the correct place for it. So I'm going to take my just normal Phillips head screwdriver, having a drill might actually help here. I just have a screwdriver. Okay, that's now tight. And I'm going to take the other screw, another screw out of the 3, and just secure that top one. This is going to take some convincing. You're going to have to kind of push this bracket or the splash guard around, push the screw around to make it sit properly. As I wouldn't describe it as a 100% perfect fit. I'd call it probably 95. But I mean, it's $30, so $30 US, not too bad. So that's 3 of the 4 mounting points in place for the front splash guard. The last one actually does not have a hole. So what I did is I took this little tool on my pocket knife right here, and you can use really anything that's sharp and pointy. And I just kind of punched a hole in it and then twist a little bit so that I can get a screw in there. But first, as you notice, my wheel is turned all the way right. In order to actually access this and get leverage on it with a screwdriver, I'm gonna need to turn the wheel all the way left. All right, so now as you can see, the wheel is turned all the way all the way left. And now I can access this back hole. It's kind of hard to show you. So look how this kind of dips back in this one little part. And that's where there'll be a hole in the actual mud flap for you to put a screw in by yourself. So as I said, I'm gonna take this pocket knife and I'm just gonna punch it in. Requires a little bit of force. Twist it around a little bit. There we go. Now I can close my pocket knife. We won't need that anymore, not on the rear. And then just take a screwdriver, reach it back there and screw it in. And now that's all the way tight. There's no movement. Well, there's a little bit of movement here, but the rest of it is very solid, so it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so now the back is a bit more challenging, but it requires fewer tools. And the reason it's more challenging is because the wheel's in the way. You can't turn it to actually get out of the way. And it may be easier if you actually remove the wheel entirely, but I don't have a jack, so I can't do that. All you need is just a socket, an 8mm socket with a wrench, a ratcheting wrench, and the screws for the mud flaps have Phillips head. And so I don't have a screwdriver that's really, really short. So I just take this ratcheting wrench, this small one, and I take a 1/4-inch socket and I just kind of jam some duct tape around a drill bit, and then that way it's not going to come out whenever I'm working on it. I just did, but it stays pretty stuck. That's pretty funny. So the first step is going to be to actually take the 8mm and remove the 2 factory screws. All right, one is out. And then you may need to use an extension. I have an extension handy just in case I need it, but I don't think I can actually use it on this higher one. It's a bit of a tight spot. I almost forgot I still have this kind of bendy extension, which is going to be really good at getting this around the wheel. I picked this up in a pack with a 1/4-inch and 3/8-inch flexible extension, and I think that the whole pack was like $10 or $15 or something like that. Either way, very much worth it because I use this all the time. And they're both out. So this is the rear mud flap, or a splash guard. I really should call it a splash guard. On the top hole, you're just going to reuse the factory screw, but on the bottom hole, there's too much of a gap between the actual fender liner and this plastic. And so you're going to use the upgraded one, and it'll fit into the same spot. It's a bit of a tight squeeze, but it'll happen. So I'm actually going to use duct tape to hold this up because I did it on the other side. I tried doing it without the duct tape beforehand, and it was taking way too long. So the duct tape's actually going to hold it up while I'm trying to find where the screw's going, since I don't have very good vision back here. But it's not going to harm my paint because the duct tape, I just recently applied a ceramic coating, just like a spray coating or something like that. And so on the other side, it really just peeled right off. And if anything, the duct tape had a hard time adhering. So I'm just going to sit it where it's supposed to go, right about there. Duct tape on the splash guard, duct tape on the paint, holds it in place. So now I can take my screw and I can try to fit it back into that spot. Okay, so the top one's in. It took a lot of convincing. It was very problematic, I would say. And what I'm noticing is that on the other 3 mud flaps or splash guards, for whatever reason, the fitment was fairly good. But on this one, the holes just aren't quite aligning the way that they should, and so there's a little notch on the back here that's not quite sitting in this ridge the way that it's supposed to. It's just keeping this from being 100% flush, but it's just a tiny gap anyway. So the next step is just take, there's only one other fastener required, so just take the screw provided with the splash guard, take this little drill bit kind of thing that I made, and this will take some feeling around for sure. Okay, so now this is in place. There's a little bit of wiggle because there's just not as many fasteners. There's not one on the bottom like there is on the front. So now all 4 are installed, and the next step is going to be actually going and driving around in some ice and snow for a few days, seeing how it gathers behind the splash guards, and hopefully I will be able to report some results to you. Okay, so as you can tell, it's a pretty nasty day out. Now this is fresh snowfall, so this is kind of a worst case scenario in terms of dirt building up on the side of your car. But as you can tell, they have guarded quite a lot of snow from actually going onto the paint. Clearly there's still a lot of snow and surely some dirt inside of that snow that's still in the paint, or that's still on the paint. That'll rest there until I can get it washed next. But a lot of ice and snow is built up in these splash guards, preventing at least that much to go on the paint. I've also noticed that my car kicks up way less snow and just mess on the road as I'm driving. So, it really just stays pretty low. I don't really have an issue with it. So I recommend these. I actually, I really like the way that they look even. I'm just kind of that way. I kind of like rally type vehicles. So I actually recommend these, but I will keep you updated in the description of the video. So if I notice anything over the coming months as I go through this whole winter, I'll put that in the description, or I'll pin a comment just to say, hey, this is an issue. But so far, everything is great. I really like it. So that being said, next step for this build series is interior, like I said before, and I mean it this time. But I'm also going to be introducing my wife's car to the channel. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and have a great day.